Welcome everyone to today's video. Today I wanted to talk about the Microsoft Surfaces, and this video I wanted to make for some time already because I wanted to talk about why I can't recommend any Microsoft Surfaces anymore and why, as a mostly Linux and otherwise Mac user, I ended up purchasing not one but two Microsoft Surfaces over the last years. Let's maybe first answer, why did I purchase a Surface at all? The reason I purchased the Surface is actually the Apple iPad, because I had the first iPad that I still have in my collection right now, still in use at my father's. Hope I eventually get it back for my collection of outstanding Apple things. But this pad we use so little that right now it has 2% battery because it was laying here for a week or two. And the problem with iPads is that you can only run iOS. Now many people like iOS, but of course it has many limitations. And also at the end of the lifespan of an iPad or iPhone, you're not getting any updates anymore. So if you want to continue using it, first of all, the last iOS update usually is so feature bloated that it's usually very slow and not very snappy anymore. And second of all, you have more and more security problems that are not being fixed because you simply don't get any updates. And historically, with such a device, if this would have been a PC, if this would have been a computer, you could have just installed Linux or BSD or Windows or whatever, but you can't because it's this closed ecosystem of Apple. And actually, for the very first iPad, there once was a Linux version, but somehow it disappeared. So for the very first gen iPhone and iPad, if someone still has this, I would love to hear from you and love to get the source, because I do not really have the time to port it myself. But if someone finds the sources again, they are somehow bedrotten on the internet. So it would have been awesome to run Linux on the very first iPad and iPhone, just for the fun of it. And in general, I think we should no longer accept this. These are expensive things. If you buy a new iPad, the other week I was thinking about this, and if you configure the state-of-the-art iPad with keyboard and everything, you are upwards of 1,200 euro or dollar, and this is a price for a whole PC. And a whole PC you can install Linux or Mac OS or so. And I recommend to everyone not to accept this praxis anymore. Yes, these are special Apple snowflakes, but this does not mean that we should accept to never be able or allowed to install your own software on this. After all, you buy this hardware for premium money and you should be able to use it. With that being said, this is why I purchased the Microsoft Surface 4 years or so ago when this was, and this is the second one. I think the first one is exactly the same, just that the second one has a kickstand with two snap-in things. Still not awesome, but better than this one. This one was really unusable in my opinion. It is ridiculous that Microsoft sold it like this, but whatever. And what you can do with the Surface is that you can install your own software. So I nearly never use Windows on this. I nearly always use Linux or sometimes Mac OS. And you can't do this with an iPad. And in retrospect, to compare this with an iPad, of course this Surface was thicker and heavier. It's definitely maybe twice as much. But whatever, the display is slightly bigger. Otherwise, here this is similar-ish. The display is bigger though, and yeah, maybe twice as thick. And yeah, things like this. And from the point that I can run Linux, this was quite nice. The reason why I got a second Surface is obviously the display was a little bit small and it was a little bit thick. This is why I got the Surface 3, and this is the second and only and last Surface I will get for now anyway. And it is significantly thinner and definitely lighter and has an even bigger display, which is awesome. Also 3:2 aspect ratio, really love this. More companies should do this for laptops also. The 16:9 is really annoying, make it at least 16:10 or 3:2. This is really awesome. And so far so good. You could think, okay, René is finally satisfied with something. He complains about everything. Finally, he's happy with something, but unfortunately, no. I could be totally happy if it would not be for the phantom touch and touch disease, which is what I made already 2 videos about, that this touchscreen does not work everywhere. I made already 2 videos about this, but as you can see, here is this gap where touch doesn't work. Also, right now it became slightly better, surprisingly. But you see, there was a gap, and here is a gap. Now here it's jumping. And because this video is actually take 2, I was not satisfied with my first take. Here was still enormously more touch disease. Maybe I edit here take 1 in showing them more touch disease. This is original pen, it was not that good. And this is the new pen I upgraded. I brought this. Yeah, you see, this is also dead there. So I'm not making this up, and I'm just one of thousands of users who has these issues. How do we even get rid of all this? And you see, so bad it was not in a long time. The last time I used it, it was better. So maybe something is really degrading in there contact-wise that now it is even worse than the last time. It was already not good. Here's clearly, and you also see when people always say it's your shit Linux. No, it's not my shit Linux. These are regular human interface devices. The hardware is already producing these events here, just directly touch and pen at this location here. And the operating system does not need to do anything also. So you see this dead zone and stuff, everything is the same in Windows as in Linux. So it's not Linux fault. I said this already 100 times, but some people never believe me. And Microsoft also didn't deliver another promise. They promised that this pen would work with the Surface 3 when it came out 2 years ago, when it was, or nearly 3 in the meantime or something. And it works basically, but it always did. But this pen theoretically could have tilled, because originally, by the way, these are probably phantom touches that this scrolled away. By the way, now this pen repaired itself a little bit. As you see now, I can draw in this area that was, but you see you move here straight, but somehow it's irritated right now. And so Microsoft promised this support in the Surface 3 and it never came. I even called there once, they knew from nothing. And they cannot say on a trade show they will bring support for this pen which has tilled, like how much when you draw with a pen, because original pen that matches to this didn't have this. This was just a pen. And this tilt never came. It has a nicer rubber tip, it feels a little bit nicer, this is more slippery. This has a little bit more like you draw on paper, which is quite nice. But again, this is $100 or so pen, and when I already spend the money and upgrade, and they tell they will bring support for this to the Surface with some major update sometime soon, fall, when this was last year or something, or the year before. The problem is nobody takes these companies accountable anymore. They just say something and it never comes. And then it's already out of warranty, it's too late, it's this and that. And again, many people have this phantom touch and you can't repair it. And they can't repair it. They could only give you probably a new device. And it was, you see, although right now it's slightly better, you can of course not work like this if... Yeah, you see it's still jumping there. So, I mean, actually the last months it was so bad I could not use it at all. Even if sometimes you have it less, you cannot work with a device where sometimes you have more or less touch disease. Even if it's some days less, it's still not awesome. So actually the funny thing is Microsoft purchased this entry company for this touchscreen. Funny because all Entric devices have this issue, and still to today. This is why I can also not recommend new devices. And also earlier devices. So this calibration tool I linked on YouTube is actually for a Sony device. So also Sony and Dell devices with this Entric touchscreen before the Surfaces had this issue already. And ironically that Microsoft purchased them anyway. And one last note, the new Surfaces are even more annoying. You will not believe that on the new Surfaces actually there is firmware running on your GPU to process its touches. It's actually some Intel Precision Touch something, and on Linux you need a very special driver. I think it's not mainline, and you need to extract the firmware, and I find this also a little bit scary and in general cumbersome and annoying that you have the special setup and your iGPU, your Intel GPU is processing touch events. This is also extremely crazy. I would in general not recommend designing devices like this. Things should be kept more simple and such. It is no wonder that things in Windows also start to break with all this complicated stuff. Touches running on the Intel GPU and things like this. Technology like this is already complex enough. you should not complicate it more, passing touch events through the GPU. That is crazy. The second and more major issue is that you cannot repair these devices at all. You see no screws, no nothing. You need to apply heat and heat this and pry this display like an iPad, I guess. And 90% of the people breaks the display, or nearly 100. You do not want to try this at home. And this also makes this repair cumbersome. I would love to inspect this touch disease stuff, but I cannot even disassemble it and take a look. My guess is that probably this connectors get off the glass or something like this. Anyway, also the battery, if the battery is dead in 3 years or something, you cannot change it. Even Microsoft has it hard to change it. You should completely not design devices like this at all. By the way, there was a Phantom Touch. I hope it was on camera. Yeah, another Phantom Touch. I wanted to say we should in general not accept from companies to produce unrepairable, unserviceable devices. And this also applies to the iPad, because you can't repair this at all as well. And in this video I wanted to give you and Microsoft a design lesson how to fix this, because this is what we are here for, to improve things, because we are professionals. So we have here professional design tools and equipment. And you do not need to glue here everything. You can just construct it the other way around. Take this display and screw stuff on the display. Have here these threads on the display and either screw this directly onto the threading on the display, or if this doesn't work for some reason, glue and bond here some aluminum frame to the display and screw it in this. There are plenty of different ways to do this. And then you just place here beautiful screws. Like, it's not like you cannot do this. For all the critique I give Apple, they still can use screws, although everything else is glued in. And this is pentaloop, not some normal screw. So Apple can do this better and not glue in batteries. And it is as simple as this. Decide your small screw to use. One in this corner, another one in this corner. And yes, normally you would measure the distance more precisely, but this is for illustration purposes only. You see how awesome this is. Looks even awesome with some awesome screws in there. Then screws here. And then here is the kickstand. Then in the corner here. And here. You see, no problem. And then like there and there. You see, professional designers do not need to measure precisely. We have such a good imagination that this works also like this. And voila, you have a completely nicely serviceable screw construction thing here, no problems whatsoever. So we're not only Mr. Smart Pants here, we are also constructive designers. And we have reasonable rates. So if you are a hardware vendor and you need design tips and such and design work, feel free to contact me. We are happy to do stuff like this, especially repairable stuff and things like this. This was a major point I wanted to make with this video, and why I can't buy this anymore. This touch disease stuff is not getting better, and please avoid unrepairable, unserviceable stuff. This is ridiculous. Eventually you want to change the battery, eventually you have touch disease, and Microsoft nor you can do anything about this. And I also wanted to point one funny thing out, how the stock changed over the years. So the first stock here was extremely simple, just plugging in here DisplayPort and USB. In a way I like, keep it stupid simple, but this is maybe a little bit too simple because it leaves no other USB port. I often have my portable USB device in here, so the new dock is way better because it leaves this DisplayPort and USB port usable there at the side and feature not present in the old dock. And this is specifically useful for two displays, but also for my use case with portable storage here. Then I can take it out of the dock, my Linux root file system on USB and such, and plug it in and out. And this also means that they are not compatible, right? This is also annoying. You buy into an ecosystem and only after a year or two you have completely different connectors and cannot, when you upgrade, reuse your dock. This is maybe also the reason why the new docks, they still have this connector and they have this freestanding dock that I tested last year, but it was too buggy. This is also ridiculous. This dock works and this external one has USB issues, DisplayPort issues. It's ridiculous. I have no idea why they design and market one dock and then the new dock has so many issues. But whatever, this adds to the problem of in a proprietary ecosystem you can spend money each year for expensive docks and stuff. I would never again buy this. I completely do not recommend proprietary docks. Always buy universal stuff that you can use with other devices. Waste of time and money in my opinion. And also the keyboard situation is crazy. I have more keyboards here for this than surfaces because this first keyboard was unusable. It was ridiculous. If this would be a 5-person startup, I would say, okay, they tried their best, but this is so untypable, like on dead cardboard. You also slip your own keys. It is not nice. And the first dock for the Surface Pro 3 was the same, untypable there. And this is why I then, when it was available, updated to the Pro 4. The big upgrade here is they have space between the keys. It is so much better to type on this. With this space you do not slip on these keys like on this. And also you see the arrow keys in the Dell XPS 15 2-in-1, the other video. You see this is exactly the setup that is typable. And I only upgraded to this keyboard from the other video as seen last year when I figured that FN Dell would change the display brightness. That was annoying and didn't like it. And the new keyboard that also still fits to the 3 has brightness here and a more usable FN delete situation here. Aside from this, they are quite similar. And it is also ridiculous that these keyboards were so bad, especially the first one, that even I had to buy new keyboards not to get frustrated here. This is my quick summary of this situation with Microsoft Surfaces. Mostly touch disease and repairability. If you look for new devices, you probably want to watch out for things like this. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, hope you learned something, and don't forget to share, like and subscribe for all the next reviews and tinkering to come.